So, democracy, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Is this really the case, or is it a myth? Some people would argue that democracy is like a restaurant. The menu is already predetermined for you. It's either fish, meat, or salad. If you think about it really, when was the last time that your vote, that you think personally that your vote really mattered? We'll be discussing all of this in today's episode of Scatter Yarn. But before we do, please subscribe, like the content, and leave your own comments as well on the topics we're going to be discussing today. Let's go. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Scatteryan Podcast. Hope you're having a beautiful and fantastic day. If you're not, I hope something comes your way that makes you smile. In today's episode, we are going to be dissecting democracy. We are going to be scattering the yarns of democracy to see if this is a myth or this is an actual thing that happens to everyone across the globe. And joining me today, my guys and your favorite people, we have Mr. Pizu, the Nelson. How are you doing, Nelson, today?
Yeah, very well. You know what it is, man. Sometimes I'm Nelson, sometimes I'm Pizzle.
And then we have the Libra one. I like to call this time of the podcast, Mr. Seun Tee. How are you doing, Seun?
I'm good, enjoying the freedoms that democracy affords me.
Fair enough. Thank you for joining us as well. So, just let's start with a quick reminder again. Democracy as defined by Abraham Lincoln. That's what I was taught. I've not done any research to verify. Democracy is claimed to be the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. While this might sound great and very very ideal, is it real? Or is it something that politicians just use to make us feel warm and fuzzy inside? So, if we try to break it down, how much of a government by the people, how much of a government by the people are we really experiencing, right? Like, so I'll start with you showing you the liberal one. So, how much of government by the people are we experiencing? What's your take on this?
I would say it depends on where you live, right? The question of democracy, does it exist? Yes, it exists. It exists in different ways in different parts of the world. The fundamental premise of like democracy is self-governance, right? That a group of people in a defined location are able to make decisions that impact themselves, and the decisions are transparently done to everybody through like the voting process. In I know you don't want me to say this, but like earlier when I was making a point that there are clear and distinct differences between the democratic freedoms that people enjoy in some parts of the world and that people enjoy in other parts of the world. I think the mistake that people make often is thinking that their personal priorities should be reflected in government policy. Right? They want to be able to sit down in their house and see their personal pet peeve reflected in government policy. The truth of the matter is that people are organizing all the time. In your local community, there are people who are involved in gathering together, getting together, voting, drafting the laws, and doing all these things. And if you care about the democratic process, you have to get involved. And if you're not involved, and you're a passive, observer, I don't think you get to like comment necessarily on the existence of
Okay.
democracy.
Right. So, just a quick question for you. Democracy, Sean was arguing or tried to give us the idea that democracy is about people in a particular area being able to govern themselves. But in ancient Greece, where this particular concept, democracy, was first initiated, a lot of people were not able to vote. Women were not able to vote. Slaves were not able to vote. Even foreigners that were not born in a particular community were not able to vote. So, how much of freedom or participation do you think that people really have? Does everyone have equal say in democracy, or is it a particular oligarch, some rich people funding the political parties that actually have a say in how people are governed? Democracy in real practice is more of a representative democracy where people vote for someone and then that person is meant to carry out the will of the people, right? Do you think that this representative democracy actually works for the people, or because we know that in reality sometimes you vote for politicians and then They promise you all of these things we are going to do, we are going to take your will, blah blah blah. And when they get into the office, they start acting for their own self-interest or for the billionaires. Like some people may say that like politicians are like those friends that help you to that say they're going to help you to move, and when the moving day comes, they are automatically busy, right? So, do you think that the politicians are actually representing you? And second question, if it's government by the people, how come it's only a few people that tends to govern? Because if you look at the Nigeria case study, it's always certain people that are the governors, the senator, the ministers. If you look at the American scene as well, I think this is the first time where there's no Bush or Clinton or Obama kind of influence
On the
in the
ballot. Yeah.
on the ballot. So is this representative stuff working for everyone, and it's actually government by the people, in your own opinion, or logically speaking?
So yeah, basically, first of all, before I answer you, I think democracy is kind of a myth. So personally, I believe that democracy is a myth because democracy in this part of my world, the way we practice it is not really the way it's written on pen and paper. Because democracy is a government for the people, by the people, of the people. So if you want to call something what it is for the people, if you want to call something what it is, then you must meet all the criteria that gives it that name. So if you say democracy is a government for the people, so are you saying that the government that we have been experiencing so far that shows us what democracy is? That means the governments of the world that practice democracy. Let me speak that way. Yeah, the governments of the world that practice democracy. Are you being honest that these people, this government is serving the people? One, are we sure that this government was
Mhm.
selected by the people? Two, and are we sure that this government
Mm.
is of the people or for the people? So these three
Mm.
criteria, if it can be met,
Mhm.
or don't let me say if it can be met. Talking from the only democratic government I've experienced growing up is Nigerian. Talking from this case study, I do not think democracy exists even until this day, because we have had several presidents that have been democratic presidents, and what they have just portrayed or done so far um, an authoritative government hiding under oligarchy. Because
Yeah.
first of all, I'm sure, okay, don't let me be sure. Oligarchy is like a power structure.
A
Yeah.
few group
State
of people
capture
running
essentially.
Yeah,
things.
do you
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? So you see, even in countries like
Hmm.
America, where they want to believe the rule of law works, it's still a group of people.
Hmm.
They've streamlined it into two: Democrats and the Republicans. Now it has been,
Republicans.
yeah, it
Yeah.
has been streamlined.
Liberals,
It has been streamlined into
Democrats, and
two.
Republicans.
So it's
Yes.
whoever is, we know money makes the world go round. Is whoever is funding any of these
Mm.
two parties that decides what happens in governance. So I do not feel that that type of government system can genuinely express itself, because you need people to vote for you, and when
Right.
you put your things in the hands of people, you cannot expect to get results that you what-
S-
sought out to get.
So what?
Yeah.
I mean,
Shall,
what?
shall,
So what?
shall just bear with me. I'll let you come in to respond to that, but I want to throw something
Okay.
else in there because in addition to what Nelson has said, if you think about it, the entire concept of democracy is one person, one vote, right? And every one vote is meant to count. But if you look at certain democracies, we've given the anecdote of Nigeria where there's no even belief that actually people that are actually ruling were vote elected by the people. But also, if you look at America as well, it is not really a democracy; it's a republic, right? Because the popular vote does not guarantee who actually leads. First of all, why are you calling it a popular vote? It should be everyone's vote, right? The electors will are meant to vote the will of the people, but the electors also have the right to
So
change
like I
their
mean,
minds, right? That's why you've had situations whereby the popular vote people did, like they did
yeah,
not
win
win
popular
the
vote, but you don't win the
election
electoral
by
college.
exactly. And then you also have, like in the UK, on the other hand, where it's a parliamentary system. Like the people don't vote the leader; you vote a party, and then the
Right,
party will actually
right.
choose its leader, right? And the same thing in like
No,
France
no,
as
but
well. So, where do you stand in all
see,
of
but like
this?
I
Yeah,
think this is a problem, right? Because everything everybody was saying, we're all describing the flaws with democratic systems. But like the fatal flaw that we're making right now is in the framing of this conversation. We're acting as if, democracy is supposed to be the perfect solution when it's
but
the best of.
it
No, no, no.
was because
It was
democracy
never
came off because they don't want
it was never
autocracy
that.
anymore, or
It's the best
aristocracy.
of a few bad options, right? Democracy is not the perfect solution, and it doesn't mean one person, one vote either. Like fatal misconception, if you're thinking about it that way, because that can never work.
But that's what they tell us
No,
every
that's
election:
not.
one
No,
person, one vote. No?
nobody
So
ever told you that.
are you saying politicians are salespeople now to say one
No,
person, one vote? Is that what
politics
you're?
by definition is sales, and nobody ever tells you that because that's not how it works anywhere. The premise of democracy is that is informed consent, is that a people anywhere get to govern themselves. So whether it's in a household of mother, father, and children, the people within that community get to decide how they live their lives. That's what democracy means. How that plays out, whether it's a parliamentary system, whether it's a
But that's not the definition of democracy. Though. It's government of the people,
no,
by the people,
that is
for the
the
people. It's not. It's not like everyone can live their
no,
dream. Like
no.
But
that's not what it
Government
is.
of the people, by the people,
but
for the
that's
people
that's the picture they're
can
painting.
mean
That everyone can live their dream. But yeah, you will see that there have been situations of where even outside Nigeria, there's freedom of speech, but freedom after
But
speech is not guaranteed.
yeah, is it even by the people? Like, is it by the people? Like,
again, what are we talking about here, right? And I think it's important to remember how we arrived here. Humanity is what now? How many years into civilization? It's 2024. So ostensibly, we've been around for 2024 years. If nobody knows what happens prior to that. For the last up until I guess maybe 100 years ago, we were uncivilized people. We were killing the fuck out of each other, raping, maiming, stealing. And then for the last 60 or 70 years, we all agreed that, like, okay, actually, let's just take a chill pill. That's basically after World War II, when like 60 million or so people died in the world. We agreed that, like, you know what, let's come up with this thing where it's no longer that because your father was the king, then you get to be the king, and then your son gets to be the king. Let's have different systems. And this idea it's fairly new, right? And it's failing in some parts of the world, and it's more successful in other parts of the world. But the idea, the premise still remains that one, it's young. It's a young system that humanity, as in general, we're trying to navigate, or if we're trying to deal with, or we're still trying to formulate. Secondly, there are weaknesses in democracy. So, like democratic politics is vulnerable to demagoguery. If you say one person, one vote, one person, one vote, right? You make it vulnerable to people who can sway passions. So, like Trump, for example, people who can be demagogues or who can lie in public and who are charismatic. So, the Americans came up with the Republican system, which is meant to checkmate that passionate popularism by having a Republican government. The parliamentary system is also supposed to checkmate some weaknesses of some other systems by making it such that, like, you get to diffuse some of the, I guess, like populist tendencies. You get to have the parliamentary system on paper is meant to ensure that every single aspect of a society is represented. Because in order to form a government, you need to create a coalition, right? Which is why in the UK they're always having new elections, and in Israel where it's the same thing, and in France, to form a government, Macron will have to partner with this other party, and they would have to partner with that other party. So on paper, right, that's what it's meant to do. But because it's a human-based system, it's vulnerable to
mhm.
corruption and inconsistency, and we're making, or I think, I fear that we're making the perfect the enemy of the good in this situation, and pointing to all the flaws in a young system. Because what is the alternative to democracy? You can either have the type of system where somebody decides, somebody somewhere.
You have plutocracy,
be- No,
aristocracy,
because
all of
the
that.
question is, do you want
Communism.
somebody somewhere in charge of everybody, deciding what what we should all do as a society, right? Or do you want to be on an island?
But technically, that's what government does, isn't it?
That's what
Like
government
they
does.
decide what everybody
Okay,
does.
great. That's what government does.
Yes, and which will take me to another question now, because now what government does is always for the majority, right? For the majority. What about the
No,
minority?
it's not for the
Of the
majority or the
population.
minority. And again, different political systems try to answer these questions in different ways. So the American answer was to make it such that there's a filibuster in the Senate. So you need to have over 60, basically. You need to have over 60 votes to pass any major resolution, right? It's a way to
How is
it
that
doesn't
working
work
out?
because now nothing major can get passed, right? So it creates the American idea is that like you're supposed to create gridlock because gridlock prevents you from having what you have in Nigeria, where every election there's a new president and they can just come and cancel all the contracts and do everything anew.
Mm,
Whereas in America, you can't really do anything significant because they're busy fighting and everything is stuck 50-50. So like you can have a system where that gridlock breaks down and it doesn't allow anything to happen. Or you can have a system where, like Nigeria, where
right.
people are just free to do whatever they want. And the job is to find the balance, but nobody
Right.
can do that because it's perfect, because nobody is perfect.
Hmm.
And the question then
All
is,
right.
what kind of system do you want in search of perfection, in search of the good? What type of system do you want? Do you want a system where people are free democratically to vote how they want and explore their ideas? Or do you want an autocratic system where somebody is top down telling you what to do? I think I know which one I'll choose.
Another question I had is democracy an illusion of choice?
Yeah.
They make you feel like you have a choice, but you don't really. Eh,
There's really no way.
that
There's
question.
really no
But
way
anyways, that's it.
you can gauge if the voice of the people is being heard. But the answer to it for me is um, government. The best in democratic governments, you have to start from grassroots. That's why we have the local government, the state government, the federal government. So if you really want to answer that question honestly, you have to segmentalize everything and
Mm,
look at it like, okay,
You have to ask it on the local level.
yeah, ask it on the local level. You're walking on the streets and the government put out a policy. You know definitely that most of these people are ignorant. They probably don't know if this policy is favorable to them or not. So let's move up to the state level a bit. Let's move up to the state level a bit where there are learned people having conversations, there are learned people having discussions, economists of the world having proper discussions, making analysis, and you will see that um, using permit me to always use Nigeria as a yardstick because I honestly don't go out of my way to listen to international news and try to follow what's happening outside the world because yeah, you get you see policies that to a layman you should be able to tell that this that you have just written down is trash and you are dishing it out to a group of people. You expect them to chunk it down and just accept it like that because you are the president, you are the governor or whatnot. Let me give you an instance. I don't know if I'm allowed to I don't know if I'm allowed to name names, but these things happen where I'm from. There was supposed to be an election, a state election. The sitting governor did not want the the next party,
Elections.
yeah, the next rival party to win or topple his governor. He there was no way he could stop the people from voting because the last elections that we had, to an extent, the youths were really involved and they came out and they wanted to decide what was going to happen. You know, this governor of this state, because he wanted to hinder the progress of the election, he dug like actual main road. He dug actual main road, like the route that leads to um
Where
the
people are going to
opposition,
vote or
where
what?
the opposition has a stronghold,
election polls.
a strong point, whereas
Yeah.
he knows she's going to
Mm,
win this election in this jurisdiction. He dug the hole and destroyed the road that leads to that place,
mm,
so that polling votes, polling ballot boxes and whatever you need to vote is not
mm.
going to get to them,
Won't get there.
won't get there. in a democratic situation. So
Right.
now
No,
So
but
we the
no, but
people.
you know, like you raise the most profound question about
before,
democracy, right? You're getting
sorry,
to the
sorry.
heart of the
Um,
issue.
I, I would like to answer. I would like to answer your initial question. I'm shown, and then you can ask that question, right? Because you asked what would be
Okay,
the
yeah, I digressed. I
perfect or the
digressed.
solution to
Yes, true.
democracy.
The answer to that question is
Okay.
the voice of the people should give you a distinct answer. And what I was going to say is before I digress is there's a local level, there's a state level, there's a federal level. There are people that discuss these things. You listen to them and you see that the policies that the government is making at the moment is not economically sound. They don't it's as if they are not doing their due diligence before they dish out some of these economical policies. And
Mm, You
Hmm.
you hear people discuss this thing, and you can relate to
Right.
the fact that the state level we are not enjoying whatever is happening.
No, but that's because Nigeria is not a democracy, right? It's not. It's not a democracy, and I think the way to think about it is that you're right that we should all focus on the local level, and that's where democracy really exists, right? In an ideal situation, people shouldn't be thinking about their federal government. It shouldn't even cross your mind what's going on at the federal level. You should know your city councilman, the policeman, the person who is like in charge of fire or water or whatever in your community. You should know who to call to fix the road, basically, because everything should be done at the local level. And because of the internet and a whole host of things, everybody is obsessed with now national news and even to an extent global news because we're all connected. Um, but the bottom line issue is that like Nigeria at its core is not a democracy, right? Because the people's voice isn't being heard or isn't being represented. And I don't think that in itself should discredit the democratic idea, right? The things that discredit the democratic idea are things like money in politics, the media, where one person's right starts and another person's rights, like ends. Those questions I think are more like germane to democracy at its core, right? Of democracy is a tension, is a fundamental tension that all democratic societies were achieved through violence. There's no democratic society that
Hmm.
exists today that did not originate or that did not get there through some kind of violence. So there's a contradiction in of itself in the idea of democracy, because to enforce a democracy, you have to deny some other people their rights, whether that's by putting criminals in jail, or locking some people away, or even killing them and executing them. So there are all these tensions that we have to reckon with, right? And then the question becomes,
Okay.
as a Nigerian, what are you willing to do to rectify the anti-democratic system that exists? And each and every person, whether they are in the diaspora or in Nigeria itself, has to reckon with that question, because the democratic system that exists other places were fought for and won and hard fought, and they're living with the legacies and enjoying the benefits of those legacies today.
So I'm going to try to answer the question, but I will say I'm trying to always sit on the fence this one as the
Okay.
moderator. But there is a perfect example of how democracy, my perspective, how democracy should work, and an alternative to democracy as well. Even though, as Sean tried to articulate, there's always flaws in everything. But I would say Germany tries to practice democracy in the way it is: government of the people, by the people, and for the
Oh,
people,
that's
because it is one of the
after they bombed
few.
everybody
It
in
is
World War
one of
Two.
the
They now realize what democracy is.
Yeah, all of
Okay.
that, all of that. But still, because it's one of the few countries whereby it's not only like two political parties. Like to win an election or to be voted for, you have to join a political party. In Germany, anyone can actually run to be a leader in
Hmm.
that country, as long as you can get 200 people to sign up and say, okay, this person can represent us. So you don't have to be in a political party
So it's a
to
parliamentary
actually
system now, in a kind
be
of
in the
way.
government.
It
Yes, a
no, and,
parliamentary system, but at least that is there. But in most other countries in the world, you have to actually join a party. You have to join the ruling two parties to actually have a chance. But in
no,
Germany,
no,
you don't
now
need that. And the
parliamentary
alternative,
systems all similar to that in the sense that like if you can get enough people to vote for you, you can find your way into the parliament. If you get enough seats in the parliament, you can find your way into the government because the government can only be formed with a
But
majority.
most of all the other countries that have parliamentary system of government don't have that. They they do not have that. So that's why I
I
say the
think what
only
you mean to
close
say
one
is
to
that
perfection is Germany.
party formation is more complicated or more regulated in those countries
No,
than in Germany.
because yes, because I that's what democracy is meant to be. You're supposed to vote of the people, but the
No, but
party system
I want the party
is
system
actually
to be
restricting the
regulated.
of the people
I
and
want
by
the
the
party
people.
system to be regulated to an extent because I don't think
But it is
like
regulated
Tinubu,
in America,
yes,
in
it should be
UK,
regulated.
in Nigeria. You can register a party all you want, but you know you're not going to get to the main ballot. Even in France, where you can vote twice, people vote two rounds of voting, right? But you still have to be in those main political parties to actually get the
So
chance to be
campaign
voted
and get
twice.
more people to vote for you, right? I mean, why should the electoral system guarantee anybody membership?
But
Um, because it's a persuasion based system now, right?
that's it. It's constitution. Election is there's election regulations. There's constitution that gerrymandering that try to restrict these people. But at least in Germany, they're close to perfection. And the alternative, another ideal situation would be like Monaco. They only have like a monarch, and that monarch is ruling the
I
country, and
mean,
they're
but
actually fine.
come on,
Or that
Dr. Toves,
is
what are we talking about?
even if
The
a
two
party
examples the
you
two
ask
examples
for
that you
you
brought up
ask for an
here.
alternative. Okay, let's go to Iran. Iran is a theocracy ruled by their religious leaders. Everyone is religious, and they follow what the religious person says. The Shah of Iran. So their alternative to
No,
democracy is what I'm trying.
Let's
of
go to
course there are
UAE. Let's
Democracy
go
is
to
what I'm
alternatives,
trying
right?
to say
UAE.
that are
Let's go to
actually
UAE.
working.
But of course the alternatives.
Let's quickly jump a bit to the role of media, money, and power in democracy, right? Because the media actually has a huge role to play in shaping how people perceive democracy. Because there's all this misinformation, all of that. There are different TV channels that people watch to get information. Are those information real, or are they paid for? Are they sponsored? Right? Is the media supposed to be informing us, but it seems that it is just reinforcing our biases. So what about the role of money in politics? What do you guys see? Like, what do you guys think in terms of how corporations and billionaires fund campaign, but the politicians are meant to actually be for the people, but it seems like they are for the corporations. Like, what do you have to say to that?
I was going to jump in, right? And because Dr. Toves, I do have to disappear. Sorry. Um, but
That's fine.
again, I think they are just fatal like misconceptions that we're working with here, right? Let's think about it for a second. Yeah, fatal. That people are working with, like when you talk about like democratic systems and this idea. So if I don't think there's anything wrong with if you have a lot of money being able to influence political outcomes. Because if any of us here was a billionaire, right, and we saw something in our society that we did not
Mm-hmm.
like, we would want to be able to support a
Mm.
politician that we believed in with the funds to do. And then that's where you now get into the ethical gray area, right? Of okay, whose money is allowed to talk and whose money is not allowed to talk, right? If you say your own is a kumbaya freedom cause, you want to feed the family. What about somebody that is selfish, right? Who's going to adjudicate the merits of one person's money talking over another? Which is why, like, I think in the
Yeah.
American system, for example, they've tried to codify it into lobbying, right? You can be an interest group if your interest is fracking, if your interest is deep oil exploration, if your interest is whatever it is, if it's the button lobby, rubber, whatever it is, you can consolidate as a group. You can sponsor politicians, you can pay for advertisements, you can do that instead of going under the table and bribing a politician so that
Mm-hmm.
he pays you money, right? So there are flaws that come by virtue of us being human beings, right? The complexity of like this system. And I think oversimplification is the enemy, essentially, of understanding our political like system and the way things work, right? And it would be better if we thought about things in the bigger picture. Like putting
Right.
things in context of where we are coming from as a species generally, how things work in other places,
Okay.
weigh like the differences, what is really like at stake, what's the value that we're talking about here, when we say democracy. But yeah.
Right. Before you jump off, let me just ask a quick question. As usual, we like to round up with some would you rather questions. So I'll start with you, Shane, with this one. Would you rather be represented by someone who represents your value or reflects your value but ineffective, or someone who does not reflect your values, but they are actually effective in getting things done? Which one would you rather have? Yeah, those are your only
Somebody who
choices.
reflects my values now, because the person who's getting things done, what are they getting done? Right? I mean, we do have a situation like that right now with Trump and Vance versus Kamala Harris. If Trump and Vance win, I think they would get a lot of things done. They'll be probably able to get more things done than Kamala Harris would, because Kamala Harris would face opposition from within the Democratic Party and from without. Whereas Trump, none of the Republicans are going to ever disagree with him on anything, and he has the power of like the bully pulpit to build. So yeah, give me my guidance on my side. If you're ineffective, even if it will take a long time, we'll get there eventually.
No problem. And then Nelson, same question to you.
So what he's saying is if he has money, he's going to buy the presidency.
Why not? You would too if you did. Uh, uh, well, I don't.
Yeah, answer the would you
It
rather.
is
Let's
what it
not
is
go,
now.
let's not swerve into
Uh,
another conversation. This guy. Which one would you rather have? Elect someone who is ineffective but reflect your values, or someone who does not reflect your values but get things done?
I want to be honest. I don't want to answer logically. If I'm answering logically, I would say somebody that reflects my values. But based off of this conversation we're having, I
Mhm.
want somebody that gets things done.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. I'll do the last would you rather. Just a I know obviously you listening as well. Which one would you rather do? Vote someone, if you had only two options, vote someone that reflects your values but ineffective, or someone who does not reflect your values but get things done. And the next would you rather question is, would you rather be stuck with the same political leader for life, or be able to elect a new leader every month? Which one would you rather do out of these two options? See, let's
Stuck
go
with
with
a
you
new
on this
leader
one
for
first.
life.
No, the same political leader for life, same one for life, like Mugabe, obviously, or be able to elect a new leader every month,
Can we
like
make
choose
it every
randomly.
year?
No, every month. That's the would you rather.
Every
So
month, I
don't change the
beg.
rules.
Every month. But see, I've seen people like Gaddafi, and you just wonder.
Fair enough. Right. So, as round up, so democracy a myth? Honestly, is both. In theory, it's a beautiful idea, but in practice, it often falls short of the ideal, right? It is a system that is constantly evolving, but also one that is deeply flawed. If you want an analogy, you can say democracy is like Wi Fi. In theory, it connects everyone, but in reality, only a few
Hmm.
people have full bars, right?
Hmm.
So, what can we do?
Be the first. Be the
Well, it's
first to
up to you.
connect.
What do you think? Is democracy a myth, or is something that we can fix? Well, this has been Scatayan Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'll say thank you to Nelson. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, please subscribe if you're new or yet to do so, and press the like button and leave your own comments on what you think about democracy. And if you have an example of a perfect democracy, you can also share with us as well. Until the next episode, as we always say, use your brain and stay safe. SCFR.